We are recording. So thank you everyone so much for this general logistics call. It's lovely to see you all. The Israel Ride, the 2019 Israel Ride is coming up in less than 2 months. Oh my gosh. So we figured this would be a good time to have one of these calls if there's more questions and things that, you know, we could help folks figure out coming up on the ride. So I'm Jessie Karsif. I am the operations manager for the ride, and I actually will not be in Israel this year. I actually have an 8-month-old little baby boy who's asleep in the other room, but so I'll be here in New York with him. But the team that will be in Israel, Miriam Leischling, David Runsberg, some really wonderful, impressive people who will be taking very good care of you. So not to worry, you will be in very good hands. One such person who will be also there to make sure that everything is going smoothly is Howie Rodenstein, who is on the call as well. And Howie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Oh, you're muted. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm Howie Rodenstein. I live in the Boston area. I'm the founder of the ride. It was kind of my baby. This will be our 17th year and my 17th year. Welcome. And the whole idea is for you to have a great time. And I'm just here to help answer questions, although Jessie's very capable of doing it on her own. I'm going to put off a video because I've got dinner in front of me and I don't want to make you watch me do that, but I'll jump in on audio as necessary.
Thank you, Howie, taking one for the team. So because there's just a few of us on the call, I'd actually love if we introduced ourselves. So I'm actually going to call on folks and we'd love to just introduce yourself, where you are, and maybe you know, 1 or 2 questions preemptively that you are hoping that we're going to review on this call. Because everybody on this call is coming on the 2019 ride, I want to make sure that we're covering everything that that you have, you know, any pressing questions that you have coming up. So how about we go to Robin Sherman? Yeah.
Hi, Robin and Mitch.
Robin and Mitch, excellent.
I am Havarim and he's not.
Great, we're happy to have both of you. So where are you guys located? Do you have any questions off the top of your head? Anything you're looking forward to?
We live in Upper Bucks County. And the only question I have is when filling out the forms about what group we're going to be in, do I just put Havarim the whole time and then they'll put me with him when they can? Okay, that was all I have. I don't know about you.
She means me when she says with him.
With that guy over there. Yeah.
Right, him.
Great. Great. All right. Well, thank you both. How do we go to Barry Cohen? Barry, I'll unmute you. Go ahead.
I'm muted.
Unmuted. There you go.
Good. So I'm down in the Philly area. I'm with Robin and Mitch, actually, and my wife, Anna, who's still working. Someone's going to make some money to pay for this ride. So she's still working, and I'll be riding with Mitch and our friend Steve. I don't think Steve's on the call, is he? You have a Steve? Nope. And his wife, who will be touring with Robin. Anna will be riding. So I'm looking forward to it. You got my email today. We talked about the hotels and getting that all straightened out. Hopefully we can do that without having to move. That'd be great. And then, you know, when I was looking through everything, the only thing that I had a question about really was the phones. Now, last time I was in Israel was about, I don't know, 8 years ago. And, you know, I rented a phone. When I've been in Europe, I kept my own phone. But I think from what I've seen, that it's probably better to rent a phone there than to use my Verizon there.
So I will talk about phones. Good to know. Awesome. I will review that in a bit.
Okay. That's it. And otherwise, no, very excited. We do a lot of riding around here. And actually this weekend, Mitch and I will be riding the MS 175. So we do 100 over Ocean City and then 75 back. So we're training for the Israel ride.
Good training. Cool. Well, thank you. Why don't we go over to Richard? They're unmuted. There you go.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I did a 47 today in the rural farmlands east of Seattle, and I got a 73 scheduled for Friday in the same area, and then we're going out onto the peninsula, out in the water west of Seattle on a 57 on Sunday. So I'm trying to see if I can get my legs strong enough for Coliseum and not have to do Sophie. We'll see.
You got it. And can you show off your jersey? Because right, your team made some. Or is this is the long sleeve pace setter jersey, which our friend Richard is wearing. We had an early fundraising incentive that if you reached your fundraising minimum by early spring, then we would send out these long sleeve versions of this year's jersey. So congratulations, Richard. Looks great.
This is the first time it was cold enough to use it.
Yeah. Great. Why don't we go to Debbie? Debbie, I'll unmute you. All right, do you have video, Debbie? We'd love to see your face.
Oh, unfortunately, my video isn't working.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm Debbie Califf, and I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And my husband, Howard, and I were doing Shomrim, but he is in San Diego this week for work. And I was feeling really strong, like I'm going to be able to do this, and it's going to be fun. And then I hear what you guys are doing. So I'm grateful I'm going to be in Shomrim, and I'm going to be strong for the ride.
You will have no problem. No problem. And then let's see, we have a 410 number. I'm unmuting it. Gentleman on the phone, 410, who is that?
That should be George Groman.
Hello, George.
How are you?
Good. Well, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is George Groman. I live in Columbia, Maryland. My wife and I are going to be cycling together on the 55-mile-a-day route. It's getting a little windy around here and a lot of leaves on the ground, so we've not been training outdoors as much as we'd like. But we should be able to do the ride pretty well because we like to cycle, and we've gone long distances before. This will be about our 7th time together in Israel. We have a lot of friends there, and we're looking forward to seeing them as we meet all of you. I heard the question of phones and would like to know about that as well. And the only 2 issues we have are, first, Jesse, if you could at some point tell me what it is I still owe you for the trip. And secondly, if you could give me an idea of how we would arrange for that bus transportation from our from Eilat up to Jerusalem subsequent to the ride.
Perfect, will do. Okay, excellent. So, you know, we have an hour for this call. I'm happy to take up the whole hour. Obviously, if it feels like we've, you know, kind of gone over everything and answered everything, then we don't, you know, then we can cut it short. So the big things that I'm going to review, so phones, transportation and travel after the ride, and then just kind of a few other piecemeal parts. So first off, I'm going to just pop everyone. Actually, I think everybody else is already on mute. Okay. A few things just get in preparation. One is like bike transportation. For those of you who are bringing your bikes, you know, bring them on the plane as a piece of luggage. New for, I believe, El Al, Delta, and I want to say American Airlines, is that they have waived the fee of bringing your bike on the plane as like a whole airline-wide policy. So double check, you know, whatever airline that you're flying and see if they are going to be charging you for your bike or not. Definitely don't ship your bike ahead of time because you may never see it again. So definitely bring it on the plane and as you know, a piece of luggage. If you're renting a bike with us, just make sure that, you know, in the forms portal that your the bike has been paid for and reserved, and then, you know, we'll make sure that you have the bike that you've reserved. The few other things. I'm just going to pop everyone on mute for a sec. Okay, so the few other things just to review. The forms in your forms portal, I think so far everybody in here has been pretty great about getting them filled out. George, I think you and I can either talk after this call or we can hop on the phone tomorrow and go over all your individual things. We don't need to go over that with everyone on this. But the big things on the forms are making sure that anything that needs to get paid for has been paid. So for instance, your bikes, Anything, if you're booking a post-ride tour, if you did anything else like that, just make sure that all of that is there and paid for and secured. Otherwise, we can't confirm that it will be reserved for you. The various other forms in there, general information, we want to make sure that if you have any dietary restrictions, any other medical issues that we may need to know about, things like that, everything is filled out so that we can prepare the best we can. Phones. So everybody needs to have a working cell phone in Israel. And when I say working, I mean with data. And this is really for a safety issue, because if you're in the middle of the desert, there's surprisingly cellular service kind of all throughout Israel, including in the middle of the desert, but there's not necessarily Wi-Fi in the middle of the desert. So that's why we say you need to have a phone with data. We do partner with Unlimited Israel. They're offering a 15% discount if you use the code Unlimited Israel. I think it's capital letters, all one word. I'm sorry, Israel Ride. Israel Ride is the discount code. It really depends on your preference. So you can either rent a SIM card that will give you an Israeli phone number that you can pop into your phone, so that then your phone has an Israeli number, and you're essentially, if you need to call an Israeli number, you're calling local. And there's usually free international calling. So if you need to call the US, it'll be free. Quite a few people prefer to simply do an international plan on their US phone already. So Barry, as you were saying, you can just call up Verizon, AT&T, whatever it is. I think some of the things are called like a passport, whatever it is. It's like $10 a day for something. And it basically means, hold on. What was that, Barry?
Verizon is way more expensive because you pay for the data. If you need unlimited data, from what I saw, it makes no sense to use my Verizon International.
Sure. Yeah, I think it varies from, provider to provider. In that case, I would definitely recommend you just go online to unlimitedisrael.net, figure out what SIM card you would need, and then they will actually ship it to you in the States ahead of time so that it's ready for you. Basically you pop it in on the plane over, so that as soon as you land, your phone is ready to go. They're really great. They have really good customer service. They're very timely, so if you know that you're going to do that, basically, they'll send it to you with plenty of time before you leave the country. The other option with Unlimited Israel is if you prefer to have your US phone number still available in Israel, that you can actually rent an entire phone from them. It may not be a smartphone necessarily, but you'll be able to rent an entire cell phone that is an Israeli number, so that you'll be able to have both the Israeli number and your US number. There's a bunch of different options. It's really obviously what you prefer, what your US phone provider might cost to do an international thing. Whatever it is, you need to have a phone in Israel, and we need to know your phone number in Israel. If you don't know it until you land, that's okay, because in the Israel Ride check-in in Jerusalem, you'll actually give us whatever updated phone number so that we have it on file, so that if we need to reach you, we can reach you. In the Forms portal is a section called Documents, and in there are two very useful documents. One of them is the packing list, and this is very useful. It goes over everything that you would need to bring or even not need to bring with you to Israel. In terms of luggage, think about it as you would an airline. You can have sort of a smaller, let's say a carry-on, like a day bag, maybe like a backpack or something, and then one checked bag size. Just remember that we have a team of luggage haulers, a few very burly gentlemen who are literally going to be schlepping the bags on and off a big truck every single morning and every single evening. And so we want to make sure that no bag is oversized or too heavy. So do think about, if you are going to be in Israel for an extended period of time, just think a little bit strategically about the various bags or luggage that you would be bringing with you. We do have the option, if you are going to be in Israel for an extended period of time, if you need to bring a bag and you can pack everything in it that you won't need on the ride, we can actually kind of basically put it on the truck and it'll just be there all the way to a lot. So that it won't be that you need to be taking it on and off the truck every day. So just a thing to think about. At the end of the ride, George was asking about bus or flight at the end of the ride. So included in the cost of everything, so you've paid your registration fee, your fundraising, so included in all of that is transportation at the end of the ride. So there are a few different options here. One of them is a flight from the Eilat airport up to Ben Gurion. So if you have ever flown out of Eilat before, this year is going to be different because it used to be kind of like a little dinky commuter airport that you could show up, an hour beforehand and get on the plane. They've closed down that airport, and it is now the Ramon International Airport, which is about a 20-25 minute drive outside of Eilat. And because it is now an international airport, you need to just factor in more time as you would a normal international flight. So definitely plan to be there at least 2 hours ahead of time. And on the kind of other end of the country, there used to be two airports in the Tel Aviv area. One is Ben Gurion International, which is still very much there. And then there was another smaller commuter airport called Sde Dov, and the Sde Dov airport has closed. So now, if anything, it's simplified it. You go from the Eilat International Airport, you fly up to the Ben Gurion International Airport, and those are the only flights there. If you would like a bus, we can certainly book you a bus from Eilat to anywhere else in Israel. They may not all be direct. Very often people ask, what's the easiest way or the best way to get from Eilat to Jerusalem? You can certainly take a bus. It's about a 4 or 5 hour bus ride, but it is a beautiful bus ride, and you will laugh as you see the roads that you just cycled go by through the bus windows, and you can say, oh, they're going by so much faster than when I was on my bike. But you can certainly take a bus, and we can book that for you. Or you can take one of the flights up to Ben Gurion and then either take a shorter bus ride or even a train ride from Ben Gurion into Jerusalem. So any of those you can actually just book in the forms portal. There's a flights form where you both tell us what your international flights are, and then you can either choose your domestic flight in Israel at the end of the ride or a bus if you would prefer. George, I just unmuted you so that if you,
Right.
Did you have any further, did that explain everything enough for the end of the ride? Do you have further questions about the end of the ride transportation?
No, you did great. Thanks.
Okay. And actually, I'll just add that you don't need to leave immediately from Eilat. You'll find in the forms portal that we offer the flights, the schedule for the flights for the rest of the week. But of course, if you are sticking around in Eilat for more than a week, we're happy to arrange that for you as well.
Right.
So
We arrive in Eilat, I believe, on a Monday. Is that correct?
correct. Right. So we arrived to Eilat on Monday, November 11th. And that Monday evening is the last night that is included in the ride. And then Tuesday the 12th is really the last day of everything, where if you're going to go on the Jordan tour or the Arba Institute experience after the ride, that's when you'll go off to those. Or folks will hang out in Eilat, go to the beach, whatever it is. But Tuesday is really
Right.
that final, yeah.
Right. So my wife and I will try to decide on whether to take the plane up to Ben Gurion and then a shorter ride from Ben Gurion out to Jerusalem, or whether to take the bus ride, because I've done it before. It's long, but it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Great. Okay. Wonderful.
Question?
Yes, Barry.
Thank you. By the way, when I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, George.
Just want to know, Jesse, when do we contact you about the amount of money that we owe? Will that be a phone conversation? Do you want to email me? How would you like to do it?
George, how about you and I, I'll shoot you an email tonight, and let's find a time when we can touch base on the phone, by Friday.
Perfect. Thanks.
No problem. Yes, Barry.
So my question is, once we get to Ben Gurion from the States, we got to get to Jerusalem. What is your recommendation to getting to Jerusalem?
Totally. So one of the things that we're going to do before everybody or the majority of people get to Israel is we're actually going to email everybody who's either on the same flight over or landing around the same time, so that you can, as a group, either coordinate travel together or just meet each other. So that's also just a nice thing. So it really depends what you prefer. You can take a taxi, which is obviously the most direct and the most expensive. You can take a Cheroute, which is like a shared passenger van. It'll be cheaper, you know, and it'll go to still like a central bus station. But it's nice, you know, it's a smaller thing than like a full bus. Or there are, you know, intercity buses. The bus company is called Egged, which just looks like egged online. But you can, you know, or you can take an Egged bus. I believe there's also the train now that you can take from Ben Gurion into Jerusalem. And I don't have a price off the top of my head for that, but I think it's called like the Israel Rail or something. Like they missed a really awesome pun, like an awesome dad pun. Instead of calling it like the Israel, I think they called it like the Isra Rail or something. But I'm happy to also look that up for you.
There's 6 of us all together, at least our 6 anyway. There may be others coming from the New York area or Philly area, I don't know. But 6 of us, so maybe this route may be the best way to go.
Sure. Yeah, let me, you know, we're going to be sending out that email of kind of who's all landing or either around the same time, I think in the next 2 weeks. So, you know, if you even have a lot of people, if it turns out that you have quite a few people, I know in the past, sometimes if there's like a group of 15 people, they'll all go in on a bus together. And we're happy to, like, I'm happy to send you some contact information if it does turn out that you have a large group of people who all want to get, you know, to one place at the same time.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, so that was the end of the ride. We do have the 2 post-ride tours. And so we have a Jordan tour, 1 or 2 days, both of them leaving Tuesday, you know, so we get to Eilat, stay over Monday night, and then Tuesday morning, the 12th, we have the Jordan tour. So you can either go for just 1 day, just on Tuesday, and you'll have to stay over in Eilat that evening, or you can go for 2 days, stay over in Jordan on Tuesday evening, and come back on Wednesday late afternoon. The Jordan tour is really incredible if you've never done it. If you've never been to Petra, they go to the Petra Park. For those of you who are fans of Indiana Jones, you may remember it from that movie. I forget which one. Oh my goodness. The Lost. Oh no. The Ark. No? Okay. Anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Okay. Sorry, my nerd hat came on for a second. But anywho, so Petra's really incredible.
Could I throw in a thought? May I throw in a thought?
Please do.
My wife and I have had the incredible opportunity to get to Petra about 5 years ago. Any of you who've never been there, it is a certainly worthwhile excursion.
Thank you, George.
I'd
So we
like
have
to
a
add
question, George.
I'm sorry?
I was going to add something about that also. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've been to Petra also before, and I did it in a 1-day tour. And I can tell you, if you have the time, I would do it in 2 days if I had to do it all over again. 1 day was real rush, didn't really get to spend the time that we wanted to spend there. So I would recommend the 2-day.
Yeah, the 2 days is really incredible. And with this particular tour, on the second day, so the first day is all at Petra, so you get a really full day there. Then you stay overnight in a nice hotel nearby. And then the second day, you actually explore Wadi Rum, which is where Lawrence of Arabia was filmed. And it's these absolutely stunning desert dunes and sand and vistas and everything. So again, for anybody on this call who is thinking about doing the Jordan tour, it's really just spectacular. The other tour that we offer is a 2-day excursion back to the Arava Institute. So we will be visiting Kibbutz Keturah on Sunday of the ride, and you'll get to kind of explore a little bit, but this 2-day excursion at the end is really an immersive experience. So you'll get to actually meet the students much more in depth. You'll get to sit in on courses. You'll meet more of the professors. You'll really just have a better understanding, of what you've been raising money for, but also just kind of who these people are and the incredible work that the Arava Institute does. So I will say that the deadline to sign up for that is, I believe, Friday, October 3rd or October 4th, whatever that first Friday is in October. So if you are thinking about it and on the fence, definitely sign up before then. Let's see. So let me think. Bikes, hotels, right. We're going to be sending out, as I'm sure everybody's been getting, we're going to send out emails. We try and keep the emails short and sweet instead of a big digest email, but we do send out, I know, quite a few because there's a lot of information that goes into this program. So we'll also be letting you know ahead of time what hotel in Jerusalem that you'll be staying at so that you'll know which one to check into when you get to Jerusalem. We are staying in a split of 3 different hotels. And then there's a 4th hotel where the programming will be. And that is just based off the size of our group and the fact that we're really only there for 1 evening as a group. I know that some folks have booked ahead of time and everything, and that's fine. So we'll be having that in Jerusalem. We will be sending out care packages later this month. Probably next week, actually, and you'll actually receive your Israel Ride jersey, a short sleeve version of Richard's jersey, which you can see there. So a short sleeve version, some luggage tags, and a few other items that we'll need everybody to bring with them to Israel. So just keep a lookout for those ahead of time. It's a really fun thing to get the package and get your jersey, and it's an exciting moment. It's like, oh, the ride is really happening. Let's see. Howie, do you have anything off the top of your head that you would like to add at this juncture?
He's eating.
Oh, you're still muted, Howie. On your phone, I think you're muted.
One of the one thing that often comes up is people wondering about the different riding groups and which group. So if anybody has concerns about that, I'll be happy to address it. And if everybody knows what they want to do, then that's all good too.
Let's see. I'm trying to unmute Debbie in case she had any questions, but does everybody feel pretty set on the riding groups that they're going to be in for the various days? Would you like a refresher?
No, I think we're okay.
I'm still unsure if I'm going to be able to pull off Holocene, but I don't know if you can help me figure that out in advance. I'll just try it the first day and see what happens. If it goes, I'll stay with it. If it fails, I'll drop down, and I'll drop down when I get to Ashkelon to Sophie.
Yep. So that's the best way to do it. Is the first day is really made for you if you want to try and push a little or you're not sure to try that. We plan for that on the first day. So we have the ability, if people can't sort of keep up, to help deal with that. And that's the best way to check and see where you fit. The key is to do something that you're going to be comfortable with and you're going to enjoy. If you're just always trying to keep up and having a hard time doing that, it really takes away from the fun.
Okay.
Definitely. And actually, I'll mention this for Robin and Mitch, and Barry, you may also want to hear this for the rest of the Shifters team, that just as a reminder that Thursday evening, that if anybody in Chaverim is in a different group, sorry, let me back up, that Thursday evening, the riding groups are staying in completely different towns. The Chaverim are going to be staying where the Tzofim are, and so that's the middle group. So if anybody of the Chaverim, their partner or spouse, whomever, is not in the Tzofim, in the middle group for Thursday night, then they'll be roomed separately. So just something to think about while you're training and thinking about what riding groups the rider is going to be in. I also have plenty of people tell me, we've been married for 25 years. One night apart isn't going to kill us. And I say, well, I mean, at this point, it sounds like, I know that I've been in touch with all of you multiple times. We've been emailing. I know that everybody's basically got their forms more or less filled out. George, I'm going to send you an email after this so you and I can find a time to touch base tomorrow or Friday. And I know, again, that we had the hour for this, but it feels like people kind of have a good sense of what to expect. And I really, we kind of set up this call as a way to just sort of check in and see were there any really pressing questions, anything else that we could help with. But it sounds like everybody is kind of, oh, yes, Barry.
I just thought about the bike, bring the bike over. Yes. I know you have the options of using a cardboard, case that bikes come to the bike shops in, or a hard case. Have you had problems with the cardboard shipment?
We've had no problems with the cardboard, really. The airlines in general these days are much better about not banging around the bikes, and whomever, if your bike shop is the one that's going to be packing it up, they're also going to be well versed in making sure that it's packed. Another thing to consider is you can even pack some clothes in with your bike to add a little extra padding as sort of like an extra bag. So that's also a thing to think about.
Okay, great. Thanks.
No problem.
Can I ask a question about bike inspections by the Israelis?
Yes.
I've talked with one person who said they took his bike box apart and just totally unwrapped it, and he was left in the airport in Israel with an unpacked bike without any of the crew to help him repack it.
Yeah.
Is that a rare event, or is that happening? And similarly, I was told that you got to be able to say you packed the bike yourself, even if you didn't, and somehow look at the Israeli. So we're trained well in looking for liars and comments.
Sure. Very, very good questions. So there is always the chance that Israeli security at the airport is going to want to open up your bike box and look through it, because you are going through with a giant box of metal. If you are unfamiliar with packing a bike, one thing I might recommend is that in Eilat, when the mechanics are helping pack up your bike, is to actually either film them or take photos as they go along the way, so that you actually have a sense of what should things look like as they go, if you've never done it before. Additionally, maybe try packing it and unpacking it a few times here in the States before you go. You can probably bring it with you, do that at your local bike shop. Those folks, I'm sure, would be happy to give you a quick training on that. But it doesn't hurt to have a sense, at least a general sense, of what the bike should look like in the box in case that does happen. Every year, unfortunately, there's maybe a handful of folks that happens to, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not that like one particular box looks more suspicious than another. I think it just happens to be if that particular security person needs to, fill their quota for that day. So yeah, I would, in that sense, I would just say, get yourself a little more familiar with packing a bike if you've never done it before, and that'll probably help you in the long run.
I'm going to pay my bike shop to do it, and I have to then look at the Israeli security person and lie and say I did it myself. That be told, you're going to say, did you pack this bike, to make sure there's not God knows what inside one of the tubes that's going to explode the plane. So I guess that's just, I'm going to have to just lie and look honest.
Well, we certainly can't suggest that you lie, but we can say we leave it to your judgment.
This video is being recorded, so.
Similar question. Can you use CO2 inflator cartridges, or those things going to look in your bag like they're little torpedoes that are going to blow up, and you better not take CO2 cartridges with you for inflation?
Correct. Do not take CO2 cartridges. They will get confiscated.
So can we buy any in Israel? We just need to have a manual pump.
You can certainly buy them in Israel. There are bike shops in Israel, and or you can bring, get a manual pump. But there are plenty of bike shops in Israel if you would like to purchase CO2 cartridges. But the airlines are not allowing them these days.
Right. That's what I figured. They look like a bomb.
Yeah. Just to clarify on this whole bike thing. I think it's very rare that people have had the bikes opened up and had to put them back together themselves by Israeli security in the U.S. But oftentimes, after you let go of your bike, Homeland Security will open up bike boxes and look at things, but they generally put them back together and put them back together fairly well because they're somewhat experienced in it, and you'll find a little note in it that says, we were here.
Right.
Okay.
That's the more prevalent thing. I haven't heard of a lot of cases of Israeli security opening it all up and making trouble for somebody on the spot.
Yeah, and especially because cycling in Israel is becoming more and more popular, and actually especially in the fall, there's at least 2 other cycling events happening around the same time. So if you think about it, Israeli airport security is going to be inundated with people with giant bike boxes. So hopefully the ratio of that to the few people who might need to have their bike boxes opened, but we're hoping it's going to be like somebody from a different rag.
And I think I read somewhere that you want us to have 3 bottles of water on the bike. Is that right?
Well, two sources of water. So a water bottle, and if you do a Camelback, you know, or a water bladder kind of thing, at least 2. Depending on the size of your bike, if you have 2, you're able to have 2 water bottle holders, obviously that's great.
Is that
But
enough?
also,
Are 2 enough? Is
Yes.
2 I can take off my pump and put on a third, or is two water bottles enough?
2 is fine. 2 is definitely fine. It also sort of is your call of, you are going to be riding in the desert and how much water you like to be drinking. We say that you should be finishing your water bottles between every rest stop, or at least 1 water bottle between every rest stop and refilling.
So if we have 2 of the standard size water bottles, and we're not a particular salt water loser, that should be adequate from your point of view.
Yes. Yeah. And there will be, you know, water and goo, like electrolyte tablets and things like that at every rest stop, so that you can always, and pit stop, so that you can always refill.
Okay, somewhere I thought I said
Jesse, can I,
we had to have 2 liters. I'm going 2 liters is 3 bottles. Okay, so 2 bottles is enough. Okay.
2 bottles. Yeah. Two sources of water.
Jesse, on the rental bicycles, will there be a water bottle holder? Pardon me. Will there be 2 water bottle holders?
There will be at least 1, and I believe our mechanics have extras so that they can put more on. It sort of depends on the size of the bike. You know, that if the bike is large enough, then they'll put 2 on. So yeah, I believe our rental bike, the mechanics try and put 2 cages on each of the rental bikes.
Thanks.
And generally, if we get a flat, can we make do with one of those little wimpy tiny pumps that don't really pump up much, figuring the mechanics will come up and do a good job, or should we carry a decent pump?
The mechanics will certainly come up and do a good job. So just as a refresher, at the back of every group is a mechanic truck. And so if you get a flat or whatever it is, you know, you pull off to the side of the road, the mechanic truck will be rolling up, you know, usually within 5-10 minutes, depending kind of where you are in the pack, to be fair. And if they're fixing somebody else's flat further back, but they'll be rolling up and they'll be able to, you know, patch up your tire or do whatever it needs to do to
So
fix
we
the
can take a very dinky pump and not a real decent heavier one.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I've got a decent pump now that I can actually inflate a bike with, but it's, you know, it's heavier, so I can drop down to a dinky thing.
Yeah. Like one of the little like manual guys, if you want, is totally fine. The other thing is, if you are bringing your bike, for instance, for Richard or anybody else who's bringing their bike, if your bike has not standard sized tires, it may be worth bringing a few extra tubes with you. You know, the mechanics are going to have, you know, a ton of other supplies and replacements and everything, but if whatever reason your tires are slightly customized or different, probably bring a few extras.
No, just regular old 728 millimeters, just like everybody else.
Fantastic. Great. Oh, and I see that we have Anna. Hi, Anna. Welcome. Hello. Great. Okay. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Things off the top of your head that you're like, I should ask Jesse this. Okay. Wonderful.
Is it okay if we want to just try to sort of pace ourselves to hang, especially me as I'm trying the Coliseum, is it okay if we pace ourselves towards the back of it, or is that a bad idea? And it's basically just sort of noodle in front of the truck and just sort of conserve energy till we see where we're at, or is that something you don't want us to do?
So in general, with whatever group you're in, we have the timing based on certain mileage, certain pacing. And so, you know, we have a lead rider, somebody who's setting the pace at the front of the pack, and then we have a sweep rider who's the last rider at the back of the pack. And essentially, you're welcome to noodle around at the back of the pack. But, you know, if the sweep rider is saying, hey, we need to pick up the pace, then either you'll pick up the pace or you'll get on the SAG bus.
Okay. But if we can keep up with, as long as we stay with the sweep rider, you're good with us.
Yeah. And you can also, you know, it's helpful to kind of check in with them as well and say like, hey, timing wise, pacing wise, is this okay? You know, and they'll let you know as well, you know.
Okay.
If it's the right pace for that group.
I always recommend to people to try and start up front with the front and stay with them a little bit, so you can enjoy riding in a pack. But don't kill yourself, and then you just fall back when you want to fall back and go at your own pace. And what happens is, generally what you'll find is you'll end up seeing the same people a lot of the time because they'll be riding at a pace that's similar to yours. And there are, different little groups that develop within all of the riding groups.
Do people set up drafting groups commonly or no?
Officially not, but sometimes in the Chalutzim, they'll do, there's certainly drafting in a group, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say for anything like drafting or pace line, it generally only happens in the Chalutzim because it's, for the most part, the more experienced cyclists and going at a faster pace. The big thing is really to never assume that somebody else knows what you're doing, and always to, and especially for pace lines and drafting, it may be worth, at a rest stop or a pit stop, checking in with the other people in your group and seeing who would be interested in doing that and who has experience in doing that. Just, never make assumptions about someone's experience on a bike.
Question.
Yes, Barry.
Approximately how many people are signed up for the ride, and how does that usually break down into groups?
Sure. At the moment, we have 165 riders and 9 chaverim of our non-riders. We generally, with the breakdown of the riding groups, about a quarter of the 165 are going to be in the Shomrim, the least amount of mileage group. Half of the overall riders are going to be in the middle group, the Tzofim, and a quarter are going to be in the Chalutzim. Is the general breakdown of how that works out. Every year, it sort of varies based on the weather, how people are feeling, but for the most part, it's a quarter, a half, and a quarter.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Yours is 35.
No, not the number of miles, the speed per hour.
Oh.
Just an idea.
That's going to be slow.
Okay. What was that, Barry?
Couldn't hear. Is it somebody asking a question? Because if so, I can't hear it.
Oh, no, I think I was about to sort of wrap up unless anybody had any other questions.
Question was average speed in the
Sure. Sure, average speed for the groups. So the Shomrim, the least amount of mileage group, averages around 10 to 12 miles an hour. And we say all of these are sort of on rolling hills, right? Because most people can do a decent pace on flats, and we're not talking about like what you can do on the climbs and the descents, on rolling hills. And I know especially around like Bucks County area, like you have plenty of that for your training. The middle group, the Tzofim, averages because it's our largest group, anywhere between 13 to 16 miles an hour-ish. There are some folks for the Tzofim that are at the front of the pack who want to go 16, 17 miles an hour. And again, it's based off of the pacing. And then the Chalutzim is really, I would say, 17 miles an hour, 16, 17 miles an hour plus. So as Howie was saying, towards the front of the pack of the Chalutzim, there's going to be people who want to go 20, 23 miles an hour. We don't necessarily let them all the time, which is the big thing, because again, we need to make sure that they're going at a pace where, for instance, our amazing crew can get to where they need to be in front of them to set up a rest stop or a pit stop, and Howie's going to say this a million times, we say this everywhere, that it's a ride, not a race. You're not just trying to get there as fast as you can. We actually, we want you to cycle, but we want you to enjoy yourself. We want you to be able to look at the incredible vistas around you and really kind of take in that you are cycling through the desert in Israel. So those are the general pacings.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions, comments? Howie, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I just, not to get everybody all up, hyped up, but I generally say 10 to 12, 12 to 15 for the middle group, and 15 to 17 for the Chalutzim, averaging on rolling hills.
Sure.
I don't want to give people a feeling that we're going an average of 20 miles an hour.
No, my goodness, no. That's really the Michigan at the very, very front sometimes. Don't worry, Richard. I think, Richard, that you will be fine in the Chalutzim. I really do.
I can do 15. I don't know if I can do more than that on a continuous basis for 100 miles. I can do 15.
I think you'll be good. Great. Any other thoughts, questions?
Lahitra out.
Yes, Lahitra Ode, soon to be seeing you all. Well, I won't, but soon to everybody else, you'll soon be seeing each other in Jerusalem. And we'll be in touch. And George, I'm going to send you an email that we can set a time separately. Thank you all so much for taking the time this evening. And we're getting excited. It's just around the corner.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You well. Bye-bye.